I want to know this. What? Give me some background. How did you get here? How did a guy with a white mother get involved in the movement and end up being 1/3 of the Panther Party? I know that's a long question, so I'm gonna break that down into pieces. But how did you, a guy that's quote unquote mixed, according to the people on Instagram, uh, end up becoming a Black Panther? How did that happen?
Um, um, because of my mother, because of my white mother, because she was back in the day, she was a hippie. And I don't mean the hippies like today where they just smoke weed and shit. I mean the ones that were, you know, out as far as white folks go. They were the ones that would ally themselves with the Panthers back in the day, the freaks. They were the ones with the fucked up froze and what's his name? He named his kid America. Warp, you remember that dude Steal This Movie?
I thought that was Abby Hoffman.
Yeah, Abby Hoffman. That group of hippies. And for whatever reason, I ain't saying she's right, I ain't saying she's wrong. It is what it is, whatever. But you know, I remember the feds, the FBI coming to our house, not because she was smoking weed, but because she wouldn't shut the fuck up. Because she was constantly agitating and being someplace. And a lot of those times, I guess just like my kids, I was right there with her instead of going to the park, playing in the, you know, all the time. I spent a lot of time at nuclear protest rallies and registering people to vote and, you know, working on people's political campaigns and shit. So a lot of times I got to see what they said, what these liberal folks said about Black folks behind closed doors. But she was the type, or is the type, damn, it's fucked up. She's the type of chick that she had a friend named Yvonne. They were best buddies for years. And then one day, as I was growing up, I realized, hey, where the hell is Yvonne? Why y'all don't hang out anymore? Apparently, Yvonne wanted my moms to cover for her because Yvonne was married. She wanted my moms to cover for her and say she was with my moms while she was out with some other dude stepping out on an old man. My mom's was like, I'm not with that. I don't get down like that. I don't believe in that, da, da, da. So she was a very principled person. And so having instilled that in me, which I'm just realizing, having instilled that type of principled life or principled attempt at having a very principled life in this world, as I got those Malcolm X speeches and books and started reading it and started understanding, I had to start living by those new principles that I was beginning to understand that were being revealed to me as I grew into them. So, you know, and I'll tease my mom from time to time when she would get upset when we went to Jasper and that sort of thing. I just look at it like, it's your fault. You the one that did this. You raised me to be like you. Raised me to stand on my principles and be about what it is I believe in. Damn the consequences. So, you know, if I get shot or something, you only got yourself to blame, you know.
We grew up in the hood like most Black folks. Little did they know it comes gorillas from the South Coast, breaking them boots out, leaving them broken in many pieces. Black rain for now 5, explosion posse going to 6 with this revolutionary tactic. Them flips up out of my mattress. I practice pro-blackness, not to say I'm prejudice when spinning darkness. No, I'm not suicidal, but I'm dying for my people. No, I'm not authentic, I distinguish good from evil. I used to wear long pants, align my mind to burn from ignorance. I cut away my perm, I got strong, some can't deal with this mentality. Thinking I'm weak, I'm not no gangster. It won't be televised, how many times my posse pull the trigger. Lord, oh Lord, am I the devil too, or am I really the son? Unto the throne, son, the flock is true. Image of you, a portrait that I could not never see. Dumb as I may be, I never go, I kamikaze G. Genocide.
Used to smoke a lot of weed back in the day.
Yeah.
So let's see, high school, I got my book of speeches and started going off on everybody because you know how I am. So I was going, all of a sudden, so I got that at like the end of my junior year and had started reading and getting into not really anything activist wise, but studying and thinking through some shit. So by the time I came for my senior year, I had dropped out the magnet program. I was in the greater population, Gen Pop basically, outside of magnets where all the black folks and Latinos or whatever are, and the dumb Asian kids. So by the time I got back to my senior year, I was ready to go, and I was telling everybody that they were fucking up, and white folks the devils and all this kind of shit all through my senior year. But the chicks were liking me more. So then I left, went to junior college and joined the African American Student Organization. There were 3 of us. It was me. I was the vice president, Sister Malika was the president, and a sister from Ghana was the treasurer. And that was it. We did the usual stuff, get Dr. King's birthday recognized, because this was back just before the time it started, everybody picked it up and started doing it. Got at the time, either it was it African American Studies or Black History, something like that. Black Studies curriculum or classes added to the offerings for the college. They didn't have it before that, but we started petitioning and going in, and so they finally got that. Went to the University of North Texas, joined the Progressive Black Student Organization, figured out they were a bunch of punks, left them alone, joined the NAACP, and almost pledged Kappa Alpha Psi. Figured out I didn't have to join Kappa Alpha Psi to get all the fringe benefits that I was looking for. And the NAACP figured out they were a bunch of punks as well. Joined a study group called Ujima with Brother Gary and Lynn and Tierra. We're essentially a think tank, the intelligentsia, the Angela Davises and Cornel Wests of the world, which was great. It was like a university for the struggle. All we did was read, study, and attempt to infect the minds of the student population and things like that. I don't recall us ever really doing anything activist oriented. It was a think tank. Figured out college wasn't my thing. Ended up back in Fort Worth. Ended up connecting with your boy Forth. Plotted around the hood, put on the black, having conversations, continuing to study, attempting to do some things, not having any kind of direction, didn't know what the hell we were doing, but still trying to passing out information, making connections, talking to older folks about, what had transpired, what had been done, what should we do, attempted to form.
About how old was you around this time when all this was going on?
22, 23.
Right.
Rashid, by then, Rashid and Tahim were in the mix. My first marriage was over. So yeah, we were going around, attempted to organize and put together, I think it was the New African
Nationalist Movement.
Or the New African Nationalist Movement. We were New African Panthers because especially that guy, loved the whole image of the Panthers and whatnot. So Panthers had to work its way in there somewhere. And while we were doing that, we were going to different events and whatnot in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Used to go to Rasta Kuma's, the bookstore. That was our ground zero. Dealt with the Malcolm X grassroots movement, worked with them for a little while. Attempted to build with the Nation. Oh, that's the other thing. When I was at the junior college, a brother named Jeffrey, I forget his last name, but I started studying under him because we were working toward joining the Nation of Islam. So I started doing the 1 meal a day, started studying Arabic to learn it, figured out that it wasn't going to be able to address the questions I had on a spiritual, it was just as messed up as Christianity. But there were some things in there that I would take with me, things about our people, how to eat to live, the Malcolm relationship, all of those things, and carry those things forward. And I guess, and I know it was May, I don't remember the year, maybe 95. 96, somewhere around there, at African Liberation Day. Yeah, African Liberation Day. Oh, found out that the All African People's Revolutionary Party, which was half-assed active in Dallas and Fort Worth, a brother named Kokai, his wife, Mukam Tagara, found out that she was actually my cousin, which was trippy because I didn't know any of my relatives in Fort Worth. So to come across this chick, you know, and Fort Worth is very small. Anybody with the same last name is probably related in that area. So come to find out, this sister Mukam Tagara, I forget her slave name, who was a part of the AAPRP, was my cousin. So that was kind of cool. So we worked back and forth with them, again, attempting to build off of the ideology, which for me, AAPRP, pulling off of Kwame Tureism. I get it, I understand there's a lot of stuff that's good, but the reality of it is we're not in Ghana, we're not in the other country, I forget the other country. We're not over there. So to take that ideology and just plaster it on top of what we got going on ain't gonna work like anything else. It's gotta be piecemeal, it's gotta be a part of it, take what works and get rid of the rest like any guerrilla would do. Just like alpha male shit, you take pieces of that alpha male shit and if it don't work, you leave it alone. But I've been wanting to say that for a minute. But so it's African Liberation Day.
Somewhere to slide that in.
Yeah. Make sure it comes up some other time. But it was in May, African Liberation Day, AAPRP, which it was really weird because the first one I went to, African Liberation Day, was actually 3 days. This was when I was in college at University of North Texas. It was 3 days. You had big ass speakers like Welsing and Malefi Asante and Naim Akbar that would come and give keynote addresses, and then you had the workshops, you know, going on different subjects throughout the day. By the time I went to the last one I went to, it was one room, it's about 15 people, one meeting. So it went from a 3-day event to an event that lasted about 3 hours. That was it over the course of a few years. But in there somewhere, I ran into that guy, the guy to my right, War, at African Liberation Day. And at that point in time, they had, that chapter had, at that event had, I don't know, what y'all had like 20 people showed up, and it was in Arlington. It wasn't even a Dallas event. This was in Arlington. So these cats came, you know, 20 minutes from way over in Dallas all the way out to Arlington at night, I think on a Saturday. If you can imagine black folks showing up anywhere but the chicken shop or the club on a Saturday night, these cats were there. So I was kind of impressed. And he and I started talking and debating and discussing and whatnot, and it just kind of flowed from there and made sense that, yeah, this shit I've been doing with this cat named Fourth is small time. It's time to advance things and grow things and move things and make things bigger and actually maybe get something done. So yeah, I've been with a lot of organizations, and I'm grew to be fairly, I don't know if it, I guess it's just my personality. When I see it doesn't fit, I cut and run. I'm out. Deuces, this is not for me. I'm not gonna linger around. I'm not gonna try to force it in or any of that shit. Done. I gotta move on, keep going. Be it the church, the struggle, or interpersonal relationships. So yeah, we worked to try to get a school started in Fort Worth. That didn't work. The other things that we were doing, me and Fourth, like I said, eventually bumped into War, African Liberation Day, started having conversations with him. Eventually, he introduced you and I, and new Black Panther Party. And there you go. Said, met War, was doing the Bandeli thing. Now I had 2 bookstores that I could go to and get, you know, familiar with our culture and learn more and meet other cats that were in this struggle circle. I was finding out that there was an actual clique, struggle circle in the Dallas, mostly Dallas, not so much Fort Worth area. But folks that pretty much, you know, once you got in, everybody would know who you are if you were around enough and did enough and were about, you know, whatever you were about. So yeah, at that point, met War, you know, had some good laughs, taught some good classes, pissed off a bunch of people, almost got shot a few times. It was all good.
So give me this here. I want to know this before I go into something else. How would you characterize your time in the new Black Panther Party? About how long was you a member, and what was your thoughts on that membership?
Well, see,
what did you gain from it?
The second part, how long was I in there? I can't really say, because if somebody asks me now, or when I meet somebody new, a potential woman in my life, I tell you, yeah, I'm a member of the new Black Panther Party. It's just in me to say that, because that was my home for the longest time. And I don't recall ever really quitting. And I don't know if that's really such a thing as quitting, or if it just, for me, maybe it's a case of, like, the Panther 48 is an extension of, not a cancellation of, that organization. So for me, I guess in a way I'm still a member. I'm just not there for the meetings, which, makes me a good member anyway. That most of the motherfuckers that was part of the NBPP wasn't there for the goddamn meeting. So, fuck it. I haven't missed a step, apparently.
So basically you're not active at the time.
Yeah, I'm just not active. I'm on vacation. But I guess, I don't know, 97, when we got drafted, and then had to go to Jasper and do all of that. I learned a lot about organizing. I learned I didn't want to be a fucking chairman. I learned I'm not a people person. A lot of it has to do with the fact I'm an only child. So, I have to have the right people around in order for me to be okay. I don't like just having groups of people around me. So that helped me understand that a lot. I figured out that I was a teacher just naturally. And it's something that I love and enjoy doing. And that's probably, so it gave me an opportunity to live the Jesus life, The story of this cat is essentially, he lived for something greater than himself, invested his time and energy not looking to take care of his problems, living off of what people would give, living off of whatever meager things he would be able to bring into his life, making just the minimal effort to maintain, but investing most of his time and energy in this greater something. The catharsis of it, the growth and the development of living for something bigger than oneself is the Jesus life to me. It's not, being saved and none of that nonsense. It's that you step outside of your own ego and live for something else, and you learn these complex things and this insightfulness because you're looking into somebody else, which forces you to see yourself more and more. So, having had that experience, if I hadn't had that, I'd probably still be running around doing what regular folk do, just pissed off as hell. Probably be dead as fuck because, my mouth. So that's probably the greatest thing I got from my active time with the party there, was just this opportunity, on the selfish end of it. What I took was my own growth and development and understanding the movement and struggle better, and how just because somebody knows some book things don't make them a revolutionary, and just because somebody's pissed off don't make them a revolutionary. That those things have to come together in a certain way to really make them productive, revolutionary minded. But yeah, and you guys, y'all right. Those y'all are probably, well, no, definitely y'all are the only two relationships that I've had since that time. So that came out of it as well. So yeah, I guess.
I like that. Yeah, you said something. Sometimes every now and then you'll trip over some truth and accidentally say something that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
All right, last really question I'm gonna get into. is the prepper lifestyle. That's a big thing that you're talking about now. You know, prepping your garden, raising your rabbits, things like that. Uh, give me a little understanding of this lifestyle and why you believe that's necessary, why you think that's important, and what led you into that.
What's the natural progression of a panther to become eventually solitary? You know, if you look at a panther in the wild, panthers don't hunt in packs. You know, they get together, have some sex, make a kid, and go their separate ways. One of them raises up the kid, and then the kid goes its own separate way. So eventually, the trajectory is that a panther will have a solitary lifestyle, you know, on an evolutionary trajectory and an evolutionary path. And so all of those things, you know, the African lifestyle and the principles and the ideas and all of that that I learned over the years have become more and more important and applicable to apply to my life. So again, having been taught by my mother to be this principled person and coming across things like the Nguzo Saba and the isms and all of these different things, now being in a situation where, again, because I'm not a chairman, I'm not the go out and recruit type of person, and I'm not looking to liberate the minds of the masses, so to speak. You know, if I come across people that are like-minded, we can build. But for me, the masses of people have rejected it and will continue to reject it. And at this point in time, those principles, the ideals that I was given from Africa, from the culture, are things that I apply to myself. So when I say self-sufficient, I'm not talking about entrepreneurialism, because it's not, to me, that's not self-sufficient. It's relatively self-sufficient because you're no longer depending on somebody else for a job, so to speak, but you're still depending on somebody else to buy your product, to accept your tax information, to all of this type of stuff. For me, self-sufficient means I can go in the backyard and make dinner, period. You know, I need food. If the plumbing backs up and it's jacked up, I don't have to call a plumber. You know, at least if it's not major, I can go in and take care of it. I'm self-sufficient. I'm taking care of me and my home. So the prepper lifestyle, really, the first preppers were Africans, because that's the African lifestyle. Africans, for however, whether you say it's 10,000 or 100,000 or 20 million years, that's the lifestyle that we've lived. We go to the earth, we have a conversation with the earth, we come to an agreement with the earth, and we prosper and live off of what the earth provides. And in return, we provide back to the earth so that the earth can continue to live, can continue to be the earth, can continue to provide. So the prepper lifestyle, really, it's hard for me to even say that, because that's giving all of those, you know, especially white preppers, too much credit. You know, I'm an African, so I'm gonna do what Africans do. And what Africans do when Africans in their right state of mind is they go out and have a conversation with the earth, and they pull vegetables up, and they get the animals and animal husbandry and all of those types of things. So it's just a natural progression for me. You know, as I moved away from having so many contacts and relationships with the outside world, so to speak, it became more and more necessary and obvious and even easier in some ways to lean on those principles, to be self-sufficient, to be an African. So yeah, it's just the natural progression of a panther to move from, just like with the isms, it's a natural progression to be, you know, a Black nationalist on day one, because you're identifying with, you know, your physical, what's right here, right now. Who am I? That's where you're getting your identity from. And as you grow into it, that identity grows to Pan-Africanism and the theology and all of these other ideas. So too is just, for me, the life, the evolution of a panther. You know, it's no longer necessary for me to have that cathartic experience of being with the masses of the people. I've done that and have gained what I feel like I can gain from that. And now it's time for me to learn what it is I need to learn by struggling with the earth, by coming to those agreements with the earth, by learning fortunately, tomatoes grow really well out here in Florida. At least for me, a lot of people have struggled, I've been told, but for me, they grow really well. But if there's like, I've had a lot of success with kale. I don't really care for kale, but I'm learning to like kale because it grows well. So my diet is changing some based on what the earth here is willing to provide for me. So, you know, those lessons and those growth. This sister asked me, well, what if you do all this prepping stuff and it never comes, it never happens? And I think people lose sight because we get caught up in, oh, you're preparing for, you know, the collapse of the economy and, you know, the power grid and blah, 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 blah. True enough. But the reality of it is, again, for me as an African, it's not whether or not the event ever happens, it's what it is I'm gaining in the meantime. What am I, the lessons I'm learning. You know, I'm learning about, you know, how wood works and how I can shape wood in order to make a pantry or a headboard. You know, I'm learning the time of year that food is available and what kind of food. I'm learning these things that we don't learn in the society anymore. So it's this analog world that's outside of the digital world, and it's this analog world that's the natural world. And these are the lessons that I'm getting by it's the same idea as being a member back in the day. It's just a different classroom. I'm no longer learning from the masses of the people. I'm learning from the ants and the grasshoppers and the trees and all of this stuff. That's how I can fit into this and make a way for myself. And those lessons that go along with it. And those are the most profound lessons for me at this point in time.